Hello, people. Welcome to the AuthorHood Podcast. Today we have with us Mr. Ashis Dutta, who has authored Gandhi and the London Cabby. So, sir, how are you? How is everything at your end?
I'm doing great, Ashita. How
Yes,
about you?
I am in best, sir. Thank you so much. So, sir, how would you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Okay. For profession, I run a small software company in Bangalore,
Okay.
and then I have been writing as a freelance writer, professionally writing for newspapers, in-flight magazines, and magazines in India and abroad for over 20 years now.
That is
So writing
great.
is not something new.
Okay.
So I keep this dual identity of
Hmm.
a software entrepreneur and a writer.
And a writer. That is great, sir. So, there's a very close relation to my next question. Like, how closely related do you think passion and profession are?
Actually, though software and writing don't really go together in public perception, but what has happened for me is that most of my writings are in three categories. One is travel,
Hmm.
one is I write on music, and I write on other aspects of culture. But my software profession helped me to go to places where I would not have otherwise visited.
Okay.
So it gave a great fillip to my quest to travel.
Hmm.
And many of the stories of the book that are there are because of my travel for software.
Fine. So,
But then
like,
the software doesn't feature in the story. The stories are based on places and events that happened in those places.
yeah, but there is this collaboration that is needed where you can work and work as a professional, and then you can pursue your passion as well.
Absolutely, as you
Okay.
said. Otherwise, I don't think I would ever have visited Israel, for instance. There's a story of mine which combines Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and even Palestine.
Okay.
Okay. Now that the conflict is going on over there, I keep reflecting, and I went there somewhere around the turn of the century. Okay, somewhere around 1999, 2000. Very few people used to go to
Fine.
Israel then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's long back.
and absolutely. And I still understand the tension that was there in both Israel and Palestine.
You have observed it really well. That means fine. So, next is that how and when did writing come into picture? Like you said, you have been traveling and you write of travel as well. You're a travel writer. So, when exactly did it come in? You felt like you need to start writing about what you observe, where you go. When was it?
As I said, I started professionally writing when my first article was accepted by one of the newspapers in Bangalore.
Okay.
And that was, I think, about 24 years. But then I've been writing much before that. I have been editing a management magazine before that. So writing was there since my school days,
Since school
through the
days.
college days. Yeah.
It's a very long time since you're writing then.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, anything about your recent work?
Recent work, it's the book which is now in the Charcha. So that would be recent, but I keep writing in newspapers and magazines as well. Last, I wrote one article very recently. Your Tagore's University in Shantiniketan got UNESCO World Heritage Tag. So one of the newspapers called me up and said, why don't you give a journalistic writing on how the path was to get a World Heritage Tag. So I did that kind of a thing for them. So writing jari hai.
Jari hai and jari rehni chahiye.
हाँ,
That is great.
हाँ.
Yeah. So, the book that you have written, sir, Gandhi and the London Cabby, what is it about?
Okay, these are stories which happened when I was far away from home.
Okay.
Okay, and in my travels. So each story is a short story by itself, but each happened in different locations, as diverse as I said in Jerusalem or in remote Himalayas. I travel a lot in the Himalayas and in very remote places.
Okay, so it's like a collection of all of that.
It's there are 10 stories, so each happens in different places.
Fine. So travel people are going to love it a lot, no doubt.
Even short story writers, short people who like stories would like it, because ultimately, Ashita, that every story is a human relation story. Ultimately,
true that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And anyway, the short thing, when the things are short and crisp, they actually tend to relate more to anyone and everyone, rather than those long things. When it comes to, like a sum up of everything, it relates a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what genre, interests you the most when it comes to reading? I hope you must be a good reader as well.
Yeah, at any point of time, I read 3 books. Okay.
Okay.
One will be a book on management and systems. I read a lot on system science, behavioral economics. So those kind of books. One will be those kind of books. And there would be others will be fiction.
Okay.
Then a lot of detective stories. So I chased up when I remember we were in Turkey, and in Istanbul, you wouldn't believe there is a hotel where Agatha Christie, you have heard of Agatha Christie, right?
Okay.
Yeah. The famous detective story writer.
Detective stories, yes, Agatha Christie.
Yeah, detective Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie used to live in a particular room in a particular hotel. So I found out that room. I just went into the room and I said, I'm an Agatha Christie fan and I want to see that room. And they said, no, sir, the room is closed. Somebody else is staying over there. But since you have come all the way, we will take you up, at the door. So we went up at the door. There were some Agatha Christie memorabilia. So I keep chasing those kind of things, weird things.
Wow. Reading brings it a lot. I read it. Just the other day I read this thing that reading brings it a lot, many things, and just today I'm getting to hear it from you. Beautiful. Okay, so like, what genres and books would you recommend to the ones who are planning to write? Like, what would you advise them to read before they start their writing?
Ashita, I think reading and writing can go together. It's only that reading can improve your writing. You are reading consciously. So whatever genre pleases someone, one should read. But then read good writers, or the writers who are reputed for their literature.
For the literature, exactly.
Then you can learn. I remember, I'll just tell you an small episode. When I was in school, I wrote an essay, and I used to write in very bombastic words.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, like Shashi Tharoor kind of words,
Okay, acha.
Okay, and we got a new teacher. and I was expecting good marks, but he gave me 6 out of 20, which is 3
My
out of 10.
goodness.
And I was so disappointed. I went
Huh,
to him and I said, "Sir, what is wrong with
huh,
my writing?" I thought he's going to give me a lot of marks.
huh.
And he said, "What have you written? It's
Okay.
all, it's kind of," and he used the word, "it's verbal diarrhea, you know."
Oh, goodness, verbal
And,
diarrhea.
and it's a verbal diarrhea.
Huh.
And he said, "Keep things simple." And he asked me, which author you like to read. And
Hmm.
I said, I read Sherlock Holmes, which
Okay.
means I read Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Hmm.
And he said, "Good. Go back and read it, Arthur Conan Doyle, and see if he uses bombastic words." And it's true. The best of writers
Hmm.
write in very simple, smooth language, in any language, whichever language it is. Okay,
Whichever it be.
and,
Exactly, sir.
and
Huh.
that was the biggest lesson to
Hmm.
me as to how to write. You know, you
Yes.
keep things simple.
So true. So, this is something I totally relate to, because there was a time back in school when I used to think that more fancy the vocabulary, more attractive your writing is. But that came, that was a blow on my face. Actually, like when I started reading, I found that the more the simple it is written, understandable, good, reaching, and it attracts to reading. जितना आप
Yes.
उसको वर्ड्स कॉम्प्लिकेट करके लिख दो, आई थिंक वो मेसी हो जाता है बहुत ज्यादा, वो फिर शायद ना पढ़ने में मजा आता और ना ही समझ भी आ पाता है। वो एक प्रॉपर बस एक शायद कुछ क्लैन रह जाता है दैट पर्टिकुलर पीपल कुड बी एबल टू रीड इट एंड अंडरस्टैंड इट, बट सिंपल लिखा हुआ हो तो anyone and everyone is able to understand what it is about.
That is true. In fact, if you read among the greatest English authors, writers in English, whether it is Graham Greene, whether it is Somerset Maugham, whether it is John Updike, whether it is Toni Morrison, whether it is anyone, Sir Vidya, like Vidyadhar Naipaul, you can just read smoothly. And when you read smoothly, what happens is that what is written in the pages, you start imagining, and you start,
True.
You are in the story. You find yourself in the story. But every now and then, if you come across a jarring word which you don't know, that is an interruption in your journey in the story. Ultimately,
that's so true.
we write to give an experience to the reader. So the reader finds herself or himself inside the story.
So yes.
Yeah.
Why? If there are words and vocabulary जो समझ ना आए, actually वो एक interruption होता ही है. The person is not going to read the next page even.
True.
Yeah. So, like you are such a reader, such a avid reader, I would say. What other than English, Indian literature, not English, Indian literature, which other literatures, interest you?
Am I doing okay with my Hindi? Because I'm a Bengali and
Perfectly.
I read a lot of Bengali literature. So I keep myself abreast of my own literature because I can read in original. Say I live in Bangalore, so I read Kannada literature, but I read Kannada literature in English, which is an English translation of Kannada literature. But when I read Bengali, my own language, I can read the original. Okay. So
and original hits different.
Original, I would presume, would be, if you get the feel much better, or you get the smell,
True.
of it. So I read a lot of Bengali literature, but I read a lot of other Indian literature, though unfortunately they are mostly in English. whether it is Munshi Premchand in Hindi or you are Anath Murthy of Kannada literature, or there are many okay, great Indian literateurs whom I love. Mahadevi Verma in Hindi. Yeah. So, and in Bengali, of course, there is a number of people who are my favorites.
Fine, because you read the original, you know how beautiful it is.
Yes.
So, like Indian literature, it has so many categories in it. So, reading in English and reading in Bengali. Also, you read. You said you have read that Kannada literature, but in English. Which out of these do you think is more handy for you?
No, when I'm reading, for instance, a Hindi literature in English, let's say, for instance, okay, I don't try to compare कि ये हिंदी में कैसा लिखा हुआ था, okay, या तो ये कन्नड़ा में कैसा लिखा हुआ था. If you keep comparing, I take it at face value, whatever is written, and I take the story, over there, because it gives me exposure to life and people in that particular time, in that particular place.
You are into it. When you're reading, you're into it.
I'm into it. Yeah.
Fine. So, like, what's your take on culture and literature relationship?
Culture and literature are absolutely intertwined. So it is difficult to take out culture out of literature, because if you take culture out of literature, nothing is left.
Nothing is
there
exactly.
There may be some culture without literature. I need to know. Maybe music, but then even music has literature in it. Okay. Yes. So, but it is difficult to take out. But the biggest point I would think is that literature becomes the repository of culture. Let's say you read, let's say in an Indian context, you are reading Mahabharata, as old as that, let's say. You are actually getting a feel of how life was. Maybe it is mostly a life of royalty, because Mahabharata is of a royal family. It's not of Aam Janta. Okay.
Yeah.
But you get a taste of what life was, okay, in that period. Similarly, when you are reading, let's say, Tagore, okay, whether it is in Bengali or in Hindi or in English, so you would get a feel of what life was in that period of time, right? So literature becomes the repository of culture.
So yes.
Okay. And it is the richest repository of culture, more than I believe history is. More than history is. History can give you certain facts and figures which are kind of the skeleton or the bone okay, of that time. But literature provides you the blood and flesh of that time.
True. Like history, it can give you an insight kind of a thing, but it cannot make one imagine what it would have been. Literature does that.
Literature does that. You know how the Greeks thought, okay, 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. When you read Socrates, or not Socrates, Socrates didn't write much. It's Plato who wrote most of Socrates' things. When you read Plato, you understand how people thought in those times, okay, and how life was in those places. And you can imagine men coming and on particular places and debating and discussing politics and society and stuff like that. You can feel that from literature.
वो एक पढ़कर you can visualize कि हाँ किस तरह बात हुई होगी, किस तरह इवन किस तरह लोग
correct.
बैठे होंगे, बात कर रहे होंगे, बोल रहे होंगे, that everything can be seen right in front of
Absolutely.
the eyes. Yes. So
Absolutely.
yeah, literature is such a pure thing. It is such a beautiful, wonderful thing. According to me, sir, like आजकल सभी लोग लिख रहे हैं. Every other person is writing. That's a very free thing. सब लिख रहे हैं और ऐसा भी हो रहा है कि आजकल कुछ भी लिख रहे हैं. This is what I have observed. कि कुछ भी लिखा जा रहा है, and because we have teenagers, we have their issues and things going on, तो सब कुछ पढ़ा भी जाता है. हालांकि उनका कोई बहुत ज्यादा, they don't have a good meaning, they don't have a very subtle thing in them, लेकिन बस बढ़ रहा है. लिटरेचर के नाम पे कुछ भी बढ़ रहा है. Do you feel the same, and do you feel that it should be contained?
I wouldn't know whether I would use the word contained, but I think there has to be more awareness about the quality. Earlier, what used to happen was, see, these are pros and cons. Okay. The pro part, I'm telling you, the earlier, in order to write a book, a publisher has to, accept the book. And we know of stories like J.K. Rowling's, she had to run around for publisher, and she was, refused by umpteenth number of people until Bloomsbury accepted her. And Harry Potter became a
worldwide
phenomenon.
thing. Yes,
world
exactly.
phenomenon, right? So now, at least if you have an idea, you can get things published. So this is something which is better. Okay. But earlier, what used to happen, when it used to go through a rigmarole of a publisher, there would be editors who would say कि हाँ ये अच्छा है, ये इतना अच्छा लिखा हुआ नहीं है.
This, yeah.
So that editorial filter, people think कि I write very well. Okay. And I do take, I conduct short courses on writing. I have been doing that even before I wrote the book. Because I've been writing for 24 years. I've been writing, in magazines and newspapers. And the editors paid for my writing. Okay, when they bought my writing, they paid for my writing. So that's why I said I write professionally. Okay, so when I tell newbies who want to write, I go by the famous saying of Ernest Hemingway, who is one of the greatest writers of all times. And he said, the first draft is shit. That is Ernest Hemingway. Yeah. And most of the young people think that they fall in love with their first draft.
First draft, yes. That's everything for them. Because that's the beginning. They think that, yes, अभी मैंने शुरू तो कर दिया ना, ये अच्छा है.
शुरू कर दिया, ये बहुत अच्छा है. And they would maybe they would send to their friends, and they would send to their family, and everybody would say, wow, क्या बात है. Yeah, so you need somebody to say, look, this is shit.
क्या बिल्कुल सर. अभी पता है, जब आपने ये एडिटर वाली बात बोली, this was the thing I was about to say, कि जब कोई आदमी के ऊपर बैठा हो जो उसको एक्चुअली जज करे कि हाँ आपने कैसा लिखा है, जो बताए, अगर वो आदमी ही हट गया, अगर वो आपका एक जो मैं तो कहूंगी कि मतलब सबसे बड़ी सोर्स है आपकी अच्छे और बुरे की, जब वो हट ही गया, यू डोंट हैव एनी पर्सन टू क्रिटिसाइज और टू लेट यू नो हाउ थिंग्स आर गोइंग, वो तो वही चीजें खत्म हो गई. लाइक इट इज सो इजी फॉर एवरीवन टू पब्लिश दीज डेज. कोई है नहीं आपके ऊपर, आपने किताब लिखी, जो चाहा वो लिखा और आपने पब्लिश कर दिया. तो कोई बताने के लिए है ही नहीं कि क्या सही है क्या गलत है, या आप इसको और कैसे इम्प्रोवाइज कर सकते हैं. So anything is coming up. Like even I don't read a lot. I won't lie कि मैं बहुत पढ़ती हूँ ऐसे कुछ, लेकिन जो पढ़ती हूँ वो मतलब दिमाग में एक कैसा रहता है कि अच्छा पढ़ना है. अब वो जैसे कुछ भी आ जाता है सामने, तो it feels a little uncomfortable reading that. ये तो कुछ मतलब कुछ भी लिखा हुआ है, अटपटा कुछ भी लिख दिया है, and you know they are getting a bloom, so it kind of hurts. So
True.
yeah, so
That is the con part. That is the negative part of what has happened.
What is happening exactly? So, like anyone who is starting to write, what would you suggest that the first draft you said you're very clear on it. So, how the new writer has to have a mindset of, like आपको क्या लगता है, क्या कहना चाहेंगे कि हाँ ऐसा आप इस तरह सोचो तब आप आगे बढ़ो?
I think it is good to have a mentor. I've been lucky in this regard because I've been involved in literary circles in Bangalore.
Okay,
so after
fine.
literary circles hoga, now it has become so easy. You can have literary circles over the internet, but literary circles of mentors who could tell me ki this looks nice, this doesn't look nice, ye jama nahi hai, baat kuch jama nahi hai. Okay, or you got things too complicated. Okay, this character did not come out well. Okay, so you need a mentor or one or two mentors who can tell you this, and that keeps that makes you to improve your writing, and whatever you write, you can revise your draft. I always say Ernest Hemingway's a Nobel Prize winning book, I think it's the Nobel Prize winning book, The Old Man and the Sea. I think it was a 14th draft or 18th draft.
My goodness.
Okay, so now see, Hemingway is one of the best authors of his time, and he was never satisfied with
what
writing.
He wrote. Yes.
With what he wrote. You see the same trait in Tagore. Tagore used to write, then he would cut things and he would rewrite, and he would not like it and he would rewrite, and even his poems he would rewrite. Yeah. So that that thing ki, there has to be this inherent dissatisfaction with what you have produced. Okay.
Exactly.
Then only you can improve. Yeah. That has to be there.
Until and unless whatever is written, you're reading it like billion times, and improvising whatever can be a good thing. You cannot expect a good thing.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, sir, that was a real good conversation. That was so, I must say, relating. बहुत अच्छा लगा मेरे को. मतलब सारी बातें ऐसी थी कि शायद जो अगर मुझसे ऐसे कुछ पूछा जाता तो शायद मैं भी यही सब बोलती. It was that. So, anything that is in pipeline, sir?
I am working on another book. So, but then let me work a little bit more before I can talk about it.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And are you planning to release it like in the same year or sometime later?
I wouldn't know if it is possible for this year, but let me see this year or the next year.
Right. So you are keeping the readers waiting for now.
Yeah, on that one. Yes.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for the beautiful conversation, sir, and the beautiful, beautiful insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashita. It's such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.